Hockey Talk Show on this Thursday, April 12th. Night one of the 2018 Stanley Cup Playoffs is in the books. We went 3 for 3. I'm just saying. I'm wearing a jersey for the first time on the Hockey Talk Show. This is not one of these shows where the host wears a jersey. That's not what we're... There's plenty of other shows like that on YouTube. They're fine. It's fine. Just not what we do here. But we're doing it today for a special reason. I'll tell you why. And we'll look forward to the matchups for this evening, as we got a big slate of games going, a lot of teams going for the first time tonight. We'll get into all that and more on this episode of the Hockey Talk Show. There you go. There you go. Hockey Talk Show. Playoffs. Good to be talking about it right here with you on the Hockey Talk Show. The Hockey Talk Show made with real bits of hockey. So you know it's good. We've got plenty to talk about on the program last night, including our title of this episode, which is the Vegas Golden Knights are brilliant in their debut. And they certainly were. Let me know where you're watching from, if you're tuning in live, and if you're on the podcast, especially iTunes, please rate and review so we climb up the podcast ladder over there. Vegas was super impressive, not only on the ice, but off the ice. I thought they did such a phenomenal job, the organization, presenting that game last night. It was really something to behold. It was a spectacle, and it was filled with all sorts of Vegas entertainment. They did not disappoint from that standpoint. We'll get into all that and more. Plus, we've got some supplemental discipline perhaps coming from that game as well. The Pittsburgh Penguins just killing the Philadelphia Flyers. And I'll tell you what, Minnesota-Winnipeg was actually a pretty good game. It was actually a pretty good game. John, welcome into the show. Snow still has a job, WTF. I know, man. But Islander fans, you got to feel pretty okay by Jonathan Ledecky's comments. Him storming out of that press conference, I said this on the show, I thought that was really good, and I thought it was very, very telling and a good sign for Islander fans. So read into everything that you will. I know it's unfortunate, but remember, we're also trying to re-sign our star center who drafted him. So, again, I don't think that Garth Snow is going to get fired. I've been saying it on this show until John Tavares gives his okay. And it's not like they're going to go and say, John, can we fire Garth? It's just going to depend on the negotiation between John and ownership. Louis, welcome in, man. Vegas, Kingslayers, free tattoos before the game, and only in Vegas. Flyer fans shutting themselves out from the world right now. I'll tell you what, I have to thank the Pittsburgh Penguins for destroying the Flyers, because if it wasn't for that, I would have never watched Winnipeg and Minnesota, which turned out to be a great game. By the way, all 3 games last night were spectacular. I don't know how I'm going to watch 5 tonight, but I'm sure as hell going to try. I was flipping around like a madman yesterday. The good thing is, though, like I said, Pittsburgh had Philly so far out of it so early on that it wasn't even, I didn't even flip back to that. I think 4-0 or 5-0. I tapped out from that game. It was a little disappointing, but Pittsburgh is good. If you're going to look at a highlight today, I'm not going to show you many highlights today. But if you're going to look at a highlight today, look at Sidney Crosby's, I believe, his first goal, because he had 3 last night. His first goal, he bats this thing out of midair. It is unbelievable. And it wasn't like one of those things where it was the puck was coming towards him and he batted it out of midair. I mean, insane. Just insane. The amount of talent that was on the ice last night, displayed in all of those games, was really something to behold. It was really, really unbelievable. Let me see here. Chris, NHL on Golf Channel. Come on, let's discuss how huge that is. Was it on the Golf Channel last night? I don't think so. I had it on CNBC, which was hard to find. I had to go and find that. I've never watched CNBC. I had it on NBC. Yeah, NBC-SN was the two games, Pittsburgh, Philly, Vegas, and I had it on, I didn't see it on the Golf Channel. I had it on CNBC. I don't know, maybe that was my cable system. We have so much to talk about. Lou, I'm going to talk about, yeah, speaking of batting things out of midair, Flory did it too. It was rather amazing. Why am I wearing a hockey jersey? It is Jersey Day for the Humboldt Broncos. So all across Canada and in some parts of the U.S., folks are going to work wearing their hockey jerseys. And I thought it was just a nice thing to do. And I thought, why not do it here on the Hockey Talk Show in case you guys hadn't heard of it. Perhaps I can spread the word to you. And you can throw it on for the rest of the day today. I doubt many of you guys have jerseys at work, but maybe you do. A couple of kids there in school wearing their team's jerseys. A little guy in his little sweater jersey right there. Couple of kids sporting their, I don't know what those are. It looks like some sort of a cat panther thing. There you go. Guy and his dog with the jersey. So lovely. Look at these kids, very creative, wearing the throwing the Broncos up on the back. And we see a bunch of ladies right here, sticks out, got their jerseys on. This lady needs to be fired. Fired. I'm kidding. It's all in good sport. I thought that was really nice. So the flurry, if you will, of support for the Humboldt Broncos continues. They just lost another person from the accident. And I thought it was nice to have this bit of solidarity. I'm rocking the, I know it looks like a Hartford Whalers jersey, but this was actually one of the teams that I played for in high school, St. Kieran's. And you probably can't really see, but there's a nice little blood stain on there because your old pal Ant was a bit of a bruiser back in the day. They have upcoming playoff games scheduled on the Golf Channel. Well, then I'll look forward to that. Or some golf maneuvers. That Crosby goal was a golf maneuver. And then, again, the second highlight you got to look at, Flory, Marc-Andre Flory, had a puck hit him. It bounced up in front of him. He hit it with his paddle once, twice, and then grabbed it in, juggling it as Kings were like descending upon him. It was kind of amazing. It was really, really kind of amazing. But we went 3-0 last night in our picks. All three of our picks won in their games last night. The Flyers game, we'll do this quickly and really just move on from it. Not good. Brian Elliott, not good. The team, not good. But it's really hard in the playoffs when you let in a softie, one or two, or there's a couple of deflections early on and you start to get that luck and momentum going against you. It's super hard to come back from that, especially in the playoffs. So that's exactly what happened to the Flyers. I don't think it's not that they can't come back and win a couple of games here, but honestly, do we see this game going more than 5 or 6 games? I definitely do not. I think it's a win for the Philadelphia Flyers if they can take this series to 6 games. They had a hell of a season. They overshot their expectations. They're going up against a team looking for its 3rd cup in a row. Nobody's expecting a lot from them. 2 victories in this series is a win for the Flyers. I know that might be hard for Flyer fans to understand, but this game was 7-0. There's really not much to discuss there. Let's see here. Recapping quickly, Minnesota and Winnipeg. Awesome game. Awesome game. 3-2 finish. Winnipeg pulls out the victory. I thought they were the better team, but I thought it was a close one all the way around. I thought everybody had a really good game, strong games. The goaltenders were good, you know. But for the most part, it was all about Vegas and the Kings for me. They played so well, the Vegas Golden Knights. And as Lou just mentioned a couple of minutes ago, had tattoos going and everything else. Look at this. This is literally only in Vegas. Got the tattoo machine out there. Look at that. Slapping Vegas Golden Knights tattoos on folks. Look at this one here. Got the marching band all lit up in the lighting and everything else. Logic performing pre-game out there. They had DJ Logic as their pre-game. That's unbelievable. Unbelievable. They really brought it, man. And maybe one of the crazy parts, take a look here. We got this from their from their Instagram. Look at this pregame ceremony here. Look at this. They got a guy from the Kings on there. He skates to center ice like, look at me. We're going to kill you guys. It's going to be easy. Look all around. There's all the other teams in the playoffs with their flags sitting outside the circle. But wait a second. Hold your horses. Here come the Golden Knights. Golden Knight sticks his sword in the ice. It cracks fire through the ice. Amazing visuals. Really, honestly. And then he comes in and slays the king. Comes into the center ice. They have their little battle. Uh-oh. King is not good enough for the shield. Not good enough for the shield. Knocks the flag away. Throws him down to the floor. Look at this. This is a playoff game. Are you kidding me? The rest of the NHL is going, I didn't know we could do this. Are we even allowed to do this? Good for the Vegas Golden Knights, man. They really, I mean, honestly, they really put on a hell of a show in that game last night. The pregame was amazing. I will say this. I didn't get to watch the second half of the game because I get up and do morning radio here in New York. But it was, I went back and I watched the highlights a little bit just a moment ago. It was phenomenal. And the crowd. And that's why I think Vegas is brilliant. The crowd was so super into it. Every shot, it was like a second or third round playoff atmosphere, and it was just game one. It was not that loud in Winnipeg. I flipped over to the Winnipeg game. Obviously, everybody in Pittsburgh was going nuts because they were just routing the Flyers, so there was a good crowd there. I went over to the Winnipeg game. I thought I was watching a library scene for a little while compared to what eventually wound up coming out of the Vegas Golden Knights fans. They were unbelievable. But you watch that game, and it's what Vegas does so well, which is why I get pissed at the media, especially in Toronto, who refuses to acknowledge Vegas as a good team. They were all over the defense of the Kings. And the Kings got great defense, but the speed of their forwards gave the Kings defense a hard time last night. If you watch that game, Martinez, all those guys, Muzzin, they're not slow dudes. But the Vegas Golden Knights forwards buzz so hard and fast, it gave the Kings a little bit of a hard time last night. It really, really did. It gave the Kings a hard time last night. They had a little trouble with the speed of the Vegas Golden Knights, and that's what they do, man. They just get in your face, and they never stop coming at you. Schmidt was all up in the play last night. Theodore had the lone goal, shutout for Fleury, which was great. He was brilliant. Although Dustin Brown did miss a wide open net that easily could have been a tied game, and then who knows what would have happened. But, you know, Vegas was great. Vegas was great. They shouldn't get too excited. It is going to be a tough series. Again, Dustin Brown, the puck just fluttered off of his stick a little bit, and he just went a little bit high, wide right. It was a wide open net. Came off the backboards. Fleury was behind Brown. Brown had, it was just nothing in between him and the net, and he just flubbed it. When he hit it, the puck just fluttered off a little bit. In fact, Kopitar was standing on the other side of that, and he wound up catching it, and even he couldn't bury it because he had a defenseman on him. But it was close. It was close, and it was a great game. But I'm telling you, Vegas, their speed and their constant attack is going to be an issue. It is going to be an issue. Was Muzzin out last night? Because I saw Martinez get beat. All right, maybe Muzzin was out last night. But it was a constant issue for them, and that is the key to the Vegas Golden Knights, man. They just got to fly. And if Marc-Andre Fleury is going to be pitching shutouts, it's tough. Theodore shot the puck from the point. I think it was Bellemare. Did they eventually give it to Bellemare? I think it was. I think they gave it to Bellemare, who had the tip just a little bit in front. Let me read some of Louis' comments here. This actually happens before every game. Similar night fight with a flag carrier from the opposing team. Really? So that wasn't a playoff thing? That's an everyday thing? Vegas is nuts. They're nuts. Going so fast, Vegas makes things that are fast look not fast. Yeah, that's true. Cheetahs look at Vegas and go, damn, take it easy, bro. Theodore was on fire last night, last few games before the playoffs. Him scoring doesn't surprise me, and fitting it was Theodore. Yeah, no, he shot. I think Bellemare tipped it. If I remember correctly. I wound up watching some of the game as I was falling asleep. but it was pretty good. There is a little bit of an issue, though, with Drew Doughty. He had a hit in the game, and they're going to review it, and he's going to hear from player safety. So if the Kings lose Doughty after all this, that's definitely going to change the complexion of this series. Let's talk about tonight's games. It looks like Jumbo Joe practiced with the San Jose Sharks. Don't know if he makes it into game one, but they feel pretty good about him being in a Sharks uniform for game two. Also, we now know who's going to start for the New Jersey Devils. That will be Keith Kincaid. So Devils going with the hot goaltender against Tampa, but it's the kid's first playoff game. We'll have to see how he reacts. Again, he's on the road. It's going to be Tampa at home. They'll have the matchups. They'll have the crowd. I'm sure they'll be psyched down there in Tampa. Let's see what he can do. Speaking of which, Stamkos will be back in the lineup. It seems like he is fully recovered from his made-up injury that gave him a rest over the last couple of games of the season. So it looks like Stamkos is going to be back. It's hard to recover from those made-up injuries because they can nag sometimes and last a little bit longer than you would expect. One more point on Vegas. The league has agreed with the Vegas Visitors Bureau, and they will keep the NHL awards in Vegas for another 3 years. This year, it will be the NHL awards presented by Hulu. Hulu entering into a partnership with the NHL the other day. I don't have all the details on that partnership, but part of it is going to be presenting the NHL awards, and those are going to be in Vegas for the next 3 years. A couple of non-playoff things before we get into tonight's games. A couple of GMs talking to the media. Jason Botterill was honest in his comment. He says there may be a coaching change in the future. Quote, there certainly has to be change, and there will be change. When you finish where we were, you have to look at everything. That means looking at even changing up some of our core players from a free agent standpoint. We'll be involved in free agency, but I'm a believer that you can't just build a team through free agency. It has to come from within our organization. Right now, we have a losing culture. We haven't won here, and it's up to Phil Housley and I to work with our players to work through that to make sure we change our culture. Some changes coming for the Buffalo Sabres. Need to make some changes there. I was never a big fan of this team. I think Reinhardt's been a disappointment. Outside of Eichel, Ristolainen, and Leonard, I would honestly change almost anybody else. I really, really would. The rest of their roster just, I don't know. And they were slapping together a lot of free agents for a while there. Not Botterill, but I forget who the GM was before him. He came and went in 2 years. Too many free agent signings. Not the right mixture. Also, Peter Chiarelli addressed the media yesterday, and he said, and I quote, after this season, the coaches will be under close scrutinization. I have to look at it real close, and I have to dig deep, and I can't say with certainty, but on the surface, you would think, yes, I have to make some changes. I'll leave it at that. I want to make sure we look at every facet of the coaching staff. I told you when Alain Vigneault was fired that this was going to affect the Edmonton Oilers. This was going to make every general manager that was on the bubble about their coach think long and hard about what they want to do, because you may not want to fire Todd McClellan, but when Alain Vigneault is available, it may make you think twice. So I think that's going to make Peter Chiarelli think twice. I wouldn't fire Todd McClellan in this instance. I would shake up my lineup just a little bit. I would move on from, what's his name? 18, who they got in the Eberle deal, the former Islander there, the kid. I just would move on. You moved on from Maroon. I try and get somebody in there to play with 97. I think they just need a little bit of an adjustment, and I think that the Edmonton Oilers will have a better year. They're going to go as Cam Talbot goes, so, you got to consider that, and you just got to hope that Cam Talbot has a better year. If Cam Talbot doesn't, then you got to get rid of more than Tom McClellan. You got to get rid of the guy who brought him in, Peter Chiarelli, which, again, the guy built Stanley Cup championship teams. He did really well with Boston. Even though they only won one, they were in it every single year, and they may be going back this year. So, I know he doesn't really have a stamp on it, but again, he was the one who brought in Chara, Tuca, Bergeron. Those are still his guys over there in the gold and black. Ryan O'Reilly is a beast in Buffalo. Did you see the comment he made about being in Buffalo and how his love for the game seems to have disappeared after the past 2 seasons? Nuts for a player to come out and admit that. I think that Ryan O'Reilly has stunk in a Sabres jersey, and I totally get it. I'm surprised he said it, but I totally get it. He would be one of the players that I would honestly move because I can get a good return for Ryan O'Reilly. And I know that the consensus is you don't trade centers, and we really don't see a lot of them traded that often. I just think he's too slow for me. Like, I want a little bit more speed on the team. I want more of what Vegas has to offer, what Connor McDavid brings to the table. Jack Eichel's not the fastest guy in the world, but he's pretty fast. I see my team going a little bit more in that direction. Ryan O'Reilly's not fast enough for me personally. Danny, got class right now, but repping a McDavid jersey for the boys. Go Bruins. There you go. For Humboldt. Jerseys for Humboldt. Search the hashtag on all the social channels. They have all of that. So we could see some changes coming to the Edmonton Oilers. We will wait and see. Games for this evening. Looking forward to it. It was fun watching those games last night. You know, it was just good hockey. Just good hockey. Devils in Tampa Bay. I took Tampa in that series. I say Tampa takes game 1. Toronto and Boston. Despite the fact that I picked the Toronto Maple Leafs, I think it'll go to the home team in their first game. Although I wouldn't be surprised if Toronto comes out of the gate. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if anybody wins here. I'm sticking with Toronto, obviously, in the series. Caps and Washington. You know, I selected the Caps in all this. One of these teams is going to be sorely disappointed, but let's be honest with each other. The Caps have been hurting for far longer than the Columbus Blue Jackets have. It's the Caps' time. They'll recognize this. I think it's Grubauer, right? It's Grubauer in net tonight for game 1. Grubauer in net. I like it. Give me the Caps in game 1. I like them in the series as well. And Colorado, Nashville. Give me the Preds at home. I think that's a 4 or 5 game series. And Anaheim, San Jose. Again, no Joe Thornton tonight, but perhaps for game 2. They're in Anaheim. I still like San Jose's chances in game 1. Mike, what player that is available would you bring in for the Sabres? It's kind of hard to tell because we're not there yet. You know, we're really not there yet. If I'm the Sabres, I am putting as much money as I possibly can into John Tavares. That's for sure. I mean, every other team is going to go after John Tavares. We all know that. If I'm the Sabres, I'm going to be one of those teams on that list for absolute certain. It's kind of hard to tell. I'd have to look at a list of pending free agents to see. There's not an overly impressive list. Let me bring this up here. And I also want to take a look at the Buffalo Sabres salary cap so that I'm not just talking out of my rear end. It looks like they got a lot of money. You know, I thought moving away from Kane was the right thing. Plus, you know, the other part of it, too, is they do have to draft. They do have to draft. Who in that lineup of 20 guys, how many of them are developed 2 to 3 year developed picks of the Buffalo Sabres? I couldn't really tell you offhand, but I know not a lot, right? Obviously Eichel. Rasmus Ristolainen is a pick of theirs, I believe. Was Robin Lehner a pick of theirs? I think so. I don't think they traded for Robin Lehner. Although was he a Senator? Or am I thinking of somebody else? God, I hate Kyle Okposo. And I say that in the nicest way possible, but he's a stat-bloated kind of guy. A very stat-bloated kind of guy. Would Eichel play second-line center then? Yep. That's going to be difficult. But if you have the chance to get John Tavares, even Jack Eichel shouldn't feel bad about playing behind him. O'Reilly, I don't care for. Okposo is a stat-bloated guy. Again, he makes $6 million for the stats he puts up. How many more years do you have with Jason Pominville? I'm fine with him coming in here and having his swan song, but he's an RFA after next season anyways. Zemgus Girgensons, you're only paying 1.6. Who really cares? He can, if he's great, he's great. If he's not, he's not. I did like the Jordan Nolan pickup, give you a little sandpaper. Benoit Pouliot has not been able to regain the form he's had a couple of years ago. Johan Larsson, honestly, I don't really know too much about. Casey Middlestat was pretty good from what I remember, right? He's on an entry level. I think he had a good year this year, if I remember correctly. Sam Reinhart's been disappointing. Jakob Josefsson. You got Scott Will. There's just not a lot that's impressing you. Love Ristolainen. I actually like Bogosian. He gets paid a lot, but I like him. Marco Scandella, not that bad. And Josh Georges, not that bad. I like Nathan Bellew, by the way. I think he's got a lot of upside. He's only 25. Defensemen sometimes really kind of come into their own around 25, 26, 27. So give him a little bit more time. And I like Robin Lehner big time. I'm a big fan of Robin Lehner. He's an RFA. So we'll see what happens with him. But I like him a lot. Middlestat this year, 6 games, 5 points. Yeah, I remember him like having a little bit of flair there towards the end of the year. 1 goal, 4 assists, not bad. You got to be a little bit encouraged by that. So I like Middlestat. As far as free agents go, Rick Nash. Here's a list of free agents. Not who I think is good for Buffalo, but here's the list: Thornton, Nash, Stastny. Stastny would be good. You need a centerman. He's a little up there in age, though. Sedin's are retired. Mike Green, you don't really need a defenseman. Thomas Plekanec is useless. Kari Lettinen, Tobias Enstrom, Tavares, Joffrey Lupul, Evander Kane. You can't go back to him. He didn't work. Filppula, James Neal. James Neal's going to be coveted. People seem to think he's really not going back to Vegas, and I mean, unless he's got a problem with it, I don't know why. James Van Riemsdyk. If you can throw a lot of money after James Van Riemsdyk, you wouldn't have to move too far. That would be a scoop and a half. The guy is nothing. He does nothing but score goals and mind his own business. He is a dream player. 36 goals this year. James Van Riemsdyk. You need a scoring winger. Stastny, Tavares would be options for you. You can throw a Matt Stajan in for a third-line center. Leo Komarov. There's not a lot out there as far as free agents go. There really isn't. I know it's kind of hard to sell Buffalo on a rebuild, but they got a draft. That's kind of how they got to go. John, you saw how Garth shivered when Ledecky said we failed. Wang never held his feet to the fire like that ever. There was a lot of disjointed feel between the two sides. It was a very awkward situation. Having heard what people said that were in the room, they said it was even more awkward, which I did not know, that Ledecky, after making that speech and storming off, stood in the back of the room and watched the rest of the press conference. So he's not happy, and I think Garth knows that. I think Garth knows this is his last go-around. And that's why I'm not overly angry that he hasn't been fired yet. Because you need him to still sign Tavares. And whatever that conversation is, it'll be, like I said. And then after that, we'll go forward. Either Tavares signs and Snow's fired shortly after because John knows about it. Or he stays for another year. And if it's a slump, he's fired mid-year. And if it's a bad playoff run, he's fired, afterwards. But again, I can't believe I'm saying this, but what Islander fans and sports fans don't realize in general is firing Garth Snow doesn't fix your team like that. It's going to be an even longer process. And I'm not sure they really have that much time. They need to win before they go into this new arena. They have a lot of seats in that thing. They have to sell tickets. And honestly, even if Ledecky steps in and takes a bigger hand in it, or Waite steps in and takes a bigger hand in it, or they just come to an agreement on who they're going to go after, but they got to go after somebody. And goaltending is the big issue for the New York Islanders. And honestly, there's not a whole ton of it available coming up in free agency. There really, really isn't. You got Cam Ward, you got Jonathan Bernier, you got some interesting choices, but you don't have that, look out for this guy. He's available. You don't have the John Tavares of goaltenders available. We have to cut it there because I have to run jerseys for Humboldt. Hopefully you guys are sporting them wherever you're going today for the rest of the day. Should be an exciting group of games tonight. I think we picked all the winners. We did. We'll see what happens. Join you back here tomorrow for another Hockey Talk Show live. Enjoy the playoff action, everybody. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys.